For my third pick and the fifth overall, the Sunday six pack, I'm going with the Jacksonville Jaguars -3 at home against the New York Giants. Before Raybon tells you about the Daniel Jones road trends and how well Daboll's been doing, look, Nick Giffen, Sean Kerner, they have these luck ratings, and they're a really good tool. Check them out on actionnetwork.com. Giants obviously number one in luck on those metrics this year. Let's go through what they've done. And I was high on this team coming in, but it's gone too far. And their defense has been bad. Martindale's done some good things, but they're 30th in DVOA. This is just a perfect buy low, sell high spot. Like, Giants off a miraculous win. They got out. They were down double digits again in the fourth quarter. They were outgained 7 to 3.9 yards per play. That's like as big of a gap as you'll see in the NFL. I think they were outgained 410 to 230. Had no business winning that game. A couple fluke Ravens turnovers late, and they ended up winning. But let's look at what they've done. They beat the Titans by 1. They lost at home to Cooper Rush. You should get 2 losses for that. They beat the Panthers at home by 3. They were tied in the fourth before they hit 2 50-plus yard field goals. That looks a lot worse. They beat the Bears at home by 8. And then they beat the Packers in London, which, again, keeps looking worse and worse. They trailed 20-10 in the fourth. They were down 17-0 in that game. They outscored the Packers 14-0. Well, then they took a safety in the fourth quarter. And then last week, they beat the Ravens at home by 4. They trailed 20-10 again in the fourth, got some fluke turnovers, were completely dominated statistically. So they have 5 one-possession wins on the year over the Bears, Panthers, Titans, Packers, and Ravens. They were tied or trailed in the fourth quarter in all 5. And the fourth quarter, they're outscoring teams 45-10 if you remove the intentional safety they took. So just getting every break is going their way late in games. Daniel Jones also hasn't thrown his picks yet, even though he's thrown a bunch of turnover-worthy throws under pressure. And here's what the Jags are going to do. The Jags run D, I love this year, and they are 6th in success rate against the run. They can shut down this Giants rushing attack. What's it going to be from there? It's going to be Jones under pressure. He's under pressure on 46% of his dropbacks. I think it's the 3rd highest in the NFL. He hasn't thrown his picks yet. He has 2 touchdowns and no interceptions. But they're coming. And then on the other side, Jacksonville, this is the time to buy them. They're coming off 3 straight losses. They lost by 8 in Philly in a monsoon, which they lost the turnover battle 5-0. They lost at home to the Texans, despite one of the biggest discrepancy box scores that you'll see. I think they outgained them by 250 yards. And then last week, they have a last-second loss against Indianapolis, a brutal loss. Trevor Lawrence became the first quarterback in NFL history to lose a game with 20-plus pass attempts, a 90% plus completion percentage, 3+ touchdowns, and no interceptions. 103 years of football has never happened. The quarterback plays that well and they lose. I think this is the time to buy the Jags. This Giants team is feisty. They're well coached, but teams are starting to get some film on what the Giants want to do with their run game, with Daniel Jones. Got to give a lot of credit to Daboll. But last week, what did they average? 2.7 yards per carry, and the Ravens are not a great run defense. And I think the Jags will be ready here after 3 straight losses. Giants have been arguably the luckiest team in the NFL. I think the luck runs out here. I'm taking the Jags -3. You're up.
So for my third and final pick of the Sunday six-pack, the 6th overall, I'm going with the New York Giants +3 at the Jacksonville Jaguars. And obviously the Giants have been lucky, but the point is you're trying to get a team getting points here. Like, we're going to fade the Giants at some point, but why not fade them when they're actually a favorite? It's instead of against the Jags team that, listen, point taken about the Colts and what they did last week, but I don't think people realize.
You were on the Jags last week. So now we can't bet the Jags?
Listen.
I'm trying to convince my people. That's all.
Look. So the Jags against the Colts this year. I think the Jaguars playing the Colts has distorted their perception in the market, and it's actually creating value on the Giants, even though I do agree. The Giants have been lucky. Absolutely. They shouldn't be 5-1. I agree. But that doesn't matter for this game. All that matters is who has the upper hand. And here's why I like the Giants in this game. And I think that the Colts playing the Colts twice has kind of really warped everything. The Giants are a team, we know what they're going to do on defense under Wink Martindale. They play man coverage at the third highest rate in the league, and they're going to bring a lot of pressure as well. But Jacksonville Jaguars against man coverage, 30th in yards per attempt at 4.9 and 31st in yards per completion at 7.5. Now, why is this significant? Because when you look at the Jaguars and when they've had success, it's been almost all against zone. People are playing zone against the Jaguars at the second highest rate in the league. And why is that? Because they played the Colts twice. The Colts play zone more than pretty much any team in the league. They didn't play a single snap of man coverage last game against the Jaguars. So this is going to be a complete shock to the system. And we're looking at, the Jaguars season-long numbers, and yeah, they look good, but they played this Colts zone defense that they just match up perfectly with. And they haven't played any of the type of defenses really that they match up poorly with. They also played Houston. What does Houston do? Plays pretty much all zone. Philadelphia, we know they love to play zone. It's like across the board, we see this Jags team outside of Washington, who we kind of like head scratching, like, how did Jacksonville lose to Washington? Well, Washington actually plays man coverage. Not that they play it well, but they play it. So Trevor Lawrence in 2 games against the Colts has gone 45 of 52. He's incompleted 7 passes in 52 attempts against the Colts. Against everyone else, he's 88 of 151. It's normal, kind of below average, inefficient Trevor Lawrence. Even with those 2 games against the Colts and completing 45, 52 passes, he's still under 7 yards an attempt. So I think that the Giants coaching in this matchup and their scheme is actually going to make all of the difference, because this Jags offense to me is very overrated. And you look at their receivers, and the only guy that's really been good against man coverage, well, 2, Jamal Agnew in a very small sample, but he's injured, and then Zay Jones. But the Giants can usually take away one receiver. Christian Kirk has not been good against man coverage at all. And you look at this offense, and this Jags team against the Texans, they scored 6 points. Now, they should have had more points. You say, yeah, they got unlucky there, but it's also because they're just not that great on offense. They're just not there yet, and they struggle against certain coverages. And this Giants team is going to be able to do something that I think they just haven't seen up until this point with this volume. So I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. If you take what I said and you want to play the under because of it, you don't feel comfortable with the Giants, be my guest. But I think the Giants get it done here. I think this is the exact kind of team you want to keep taking points with. Now, if they were like a 3-point favorite, if it was reversed, or like, let's say, maybe they win more convincingly in one of these games, and it's Giants, it's a pick 'em or something, that's a little different. But we're getting a field goal here. Do we really think Jacksonville is going to beat them by more than a field goal when they struggle against the exact kind of scheme that the Giants run on defense? I don't personally think so. And I mean, it doesn't hurt that Daniel Jones is 12-4 as a road underdog against the spread, including a perfect 10-0 against the spread when the number is 7.5 or less. I don't even really think that applies, because I mean, a lot of that was with other coaches and stuff. But I just think this Giants scheme is going to make all the difference against this Jags offense this week. And I think, we look at this Jags offense. Okay, they scored 30 and they scored 27 and 24 against the Colts. I just think that's not a representative sample of what's going to happen this week.
I actually disagree because of the coverages. If you dig a little deeper, the yards per play against man hasn't been great, but the biggest defense that they've struggled with all year, and this is what the Texans ran the entire game when they held them to 6 points, and this is what Lawrence really struggled with in his first ever game, is cover 2. And the Giants run 0 cover 2. They run man and then some cover 3. Trevor Lawrence against cover 2 this year, 50% on target rate. Against all other defense, 82%. So he is in this bucket of quarterbacks that is struggling with the too high safety cover 2 defense, and the Giants run none of it. So yeah, your results are, we'll find out more on Sunday. Your outputs are correct, but as far as on target rates, turnover-worthy throws. Cover 2 has befuddled Lawrence this year, and the Giants run 0 cover 2. I mean, I shouldn't say 0, but almost no cover 2.
But this is where I go back to the coaching, because like obviously, you know, you look at that and yeah, I'm sure they're gonna up their rate of cover 2, because this is what the Giants have done every week. Every week we're like, all right, their luck's gonna run out, you know, and I'm like, you know, what if they just, you know, figure like they're just hanging in these games, doing enough. And I think, and listen, it's not just like, yes,
they don't change their defense. Their defense is just
man.
Their defense is man and blitz. Like that's what Wink Martindale does.
But that's my point too. It's not just Trevor Lawrence. It's the Jags receivers aren't great against man coverage. Like yes, they've seen a lot of cover too, but against man coverage of any type, the only guy that's going to win is probably Zay Jones, and you could take him away. Like I just don't see. Like this Jags team is a team like everything came against the Colts, and then they had the like it's like a very volatile thing where it's like, okay, they were impressive against the Colts, and they obviously lost one of those games, but impressive on offense. And then they just caught the Chargers at like it's this weird time where Herbert was hurt and they got, you know, a couple turnovers early and they rolled. But besides that, what have we really seen out of this Jags team that like you want to weigh like for them to beat
but you're
more than a field goal?
Too much, like I said, you're giving way too much credit to this Giants defense that's 30th DVOA for a reason. Here's the offenses they beat. The Packers might be the worst of the offenses, by the way. The Packers, the Bears, the Panthers, the Titans, and they lost to Cooper Rush, who's been one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. Like, and then the Ravens, they gave up 420 yards and 7 yards per play last week. So the offenses that they held in check were the Packers, the Bears, the Panthers, Cooper Rush, and the Titans. I rest my case.